Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Moose Machine's Magical Miniature Painting Hour! Woo! Magical Mystery Painting Hour! That's the theme
awful
song. It was really good. It was good.
I like the drums.
Anyway, good evening, everybody. As you well know, on the off weeks of Death Clock, particularly
Yes.
when we're missing one of our casters,
Yeah.
we now do a couple extra things.
Yeah.
And one of them is the Magical Miniature Moose Machine Painting Hour.
Yeah.
That's pretty much where we bring James Craig on.
Yep.
And we try to get some of our hobby projects done while we kind of stitch and bitch.
Stitch and bitch.
So let's introduce our guest host for this evening, the guy replacing George, the one and only James Craig. That's pretty good. If you're listening to the podcast, because there will be a podcast version of this, unfortunately we do refer to what we're doing often.
Yeah.
We'll try to describe it in the best words we possibly can.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult.
But I recommend you watch the
video.
the video instead, which is on our YouTube page. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube page, just Google Moose Machine YouTube. You'll find it there.
I have found out that if you open like a notepad window or something like that, you can pretty much just cover our faces with notepad windows and still get the most out of the podcast.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Sweet. That's what you do, isn't it?
That's how I get. Yeah, when I'm
So-
not there and I have to watch it to figure out what you guys talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's sweet. That's really nice of you. All right. Well, let's get started, boys. So first things first, let's talk about the projects we're going to be working on tonight. Jason, what are you working on?
I am working on finishing off Cole Grima, who's been sitting on my paint table for about 2 months now.
Oh man. And you like playing Cole Grima?
I love Cole Grima. She's fantastic.
She's a good counter.
Super pressuring when I played against you that one game.
Yes, I played Cole Grima against James in Kingston. Yeah, against Osram of all casters.
Ugh.
And she kind of shuts Osram down a bit. Her feat is no ranged attacks, which kind of hurts. Plus, she's got a 3-inch AoE cloud wall that just spreads across the table and makes things difficult because if you stand in them, you're also -2 to attack rolls.
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I played a game.
Somehow you still managed to lose.
Yeah. I think did I clock myself that game? Or did I? You murdered me. You just
I
straight up
assassinated.
murdered me. Yeah.
That is what Osram does.
Yeah.
I played into
It was a Hail Mary. If I
Yeah.
hadn't gotten him, I was so dead.
Yeah.
That's the kind of the story of Cole Grima with you.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
You and I played a Cole Grima game. You played it in the Grim a couple of times. Grimkin a couple of
Yeah,
times.
when I played Cole Grima against you, I think it was my first game with Cole Grima, and I was running her in Power of Dunia, which is not an optimal theme for her.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was not good for me because I used to love beast heavy lists, but now the way scenarios and stuff are, they
Right.
don't seem to work out. You have to pick your opportunities when you see what scenario you're playing.
Right. Yeah, it's yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah.
James, what are you going to be working on this evening?
I'm just. I took one of my armies out to tournament in Kingston a couple weeks ago, and some of them need a little bit of touch up, a little bit of fixing. So I've got some Rulik Horgenhold hammer dudes and some Ogren that are just going to get a little bit of little touch up, little weathering powder on their bases, and should be back in shape in no time.
This is an interesting note, actually, for those people who go to tournaments all the time and are always complaining about their paint chipping, that this paint and that paint, and how many coats of varnish do I need to put on it to keep my stuff from chipping. I think it's kind of an unavoidable part of the hobby to a certain degree.
Yes.
And just be prepared to fix your shit every once in a while.
Yeah.
There's two easy answers if you don't want your models to chip. Invest in the cases that have like the guy in out west is making
BC,
there.
yeah, the stand-up ones.
Where they slide in.
Yeah.
Those are brilliant. Or magnet all your bases and have all your models stand so they're magnet in place. They'll be safe. But any kind of foam, any kind of bubble wrap, anything else you choose to use, you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
There's one other thing you can do.
Don't use them.
Put them on a shelf.
Don't use them.
I'm going to be working tonight on pinning my what's left of these the Raiders that I'll be painting up for the Nova Open.
Yeah.
James, you want to tell us a little bit about what we're doing for the Nova? What the news is on the grapevine?
Yeah. So with the Nova Open Charitable Foundation, they run a number of raffles through the year, And last year we built a Signar army. This year we're building a Trollblood army. We figured that Trollbloods are A, awesome, B, fantastic, and C, pretty hot right now. So it seemed like a good choice.
And James plays them, so he thinks he's going to just, try to get the win them.
I'm going to try and win.
Yeah.
I'm buying tickets. But that being said, raises a lot of money for charity. We haven't finalized which ones our auction or our raffle will go to yet. But I think it'll be the Breast Cancer Society, and that's the one we did last year as well. And that one really fits well with us, I think.
I think so. Especially with trolls, because they got some big boobies.
There you go.
Jeez.
And I was talking with the men trolls.
Yeah.
So
no sexism here. That's
that's
all the way around.
We're not sexist. Let's talk a bit about some of our games this week while we get started on our projects. Jason and I got a nice drunken birthday Bilax game in.
Did we ever?
There was a table flip, I think, at the end, if I remember correctly. Jason, how did that game go?
I thought it went really well, actually. I lost on clock, but we were both getting pretty low. I think you had 1 minute and 59 left.
Yeah.
And I had the only things I lost were my unit of Fens and 3 champs.
Yeah.
And all you had left was a Cage Rager, Carriana Rose, and your caster. But I still managed to clock myself.
Yeah.
Because the list I was running, Madrak 1, I didn't have a decent source of magical weapons to deal with 4 gremlin
right,
swarms.
so I had the 4 gremlin swarms, so I was just basically stopping you from scoring points.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I feel like I could have won on scenario if I had a way of reliably dealing with gremlin swarms. So I took out Eilish and put in a Bogtrog in that list because
just to help.
A Bogtrog and a Bomber are super good together, so...
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to playing it into again.
Yep.
Are you going to let me play into you again? Because I believe that your final words were...
God damn, I'm tired of playing against the Dreamer.
That's the last time I play into Grimkin.
Well, not Grimkin, just the Dreamer, because we've probably played 5 games now with just the Dreamer, and it's like, I'm getting Dreamer burnout.
Yeah, I can understand that. Well, that and you've had to play against it at other tournaments.
Exactly, yeah.
I get it. I mean, I probably should start building my old witch list just so that I can play something else into people. I was trying to play 50 games before the SOO with the Dreamer because I pretty much feel like she'll be the only thing I bring out most of the day.
Right. Was there DNC at the zoo?
There might be, actually, so I should probably start playing that old witch list anyway.
Yeah.
The old witch list is going to be a pain in the ass, too, so I don't really feel good about it.
Who is in your old witch list?
Off the top of my head, it's got pretty much every unit of dudes.
Right.
And it's in... Is it Bump? Where you get the ambushing...
Yeah, because the other one is...
Dark Menagerie.
Yeah, Dark Menagerie, and the other one is Bump, yeah.
Yeah, anyways, it's the other one. So I get ambushing crows... murder
That's
crows.
really good.
It gets which I love it, and other people are like, don't bother with crows, they suck, and I'm like, you know what, I've had so much success over the years with ambushing units. I don't think people who don't play with ambushing units often really understand how much pressure an ambushing, even a bad ambushing unit can put on. So much pressure.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Craig, did you manage to get any games in lately?
No, but tomorrow my son is asked to try out Company of Iron. So
nice.
Tomorrow we're going to give that a go. He's been working on his cricks a little bit more, and
very cool.
Going to give her a go.
Got enough to do a Company of Iron game. That's pretty awesome.
I still haven't played Company of Iron yet.
I have not had a chance yet either. It's been on my list of to-dos, but I've been like, when I do get game time in, it's like, I want to play a list of 50-point or 75-point lists so I can try. Okay, so I'm just going to give you guys, because I'm doing a little bit of pinning, and this gets asked a lot, is how do you pin? So things I've needed to do this project. First off, some copper rods. Now, technically, you don't need to buy the fancy, expensive copper rods at the gaming store. That is not a prerequisite to pinning properly. I've had just as much success doing it with paper clips. You can buy a bundle wire from the hardware store. That works just fine. The one item you really do need over the wire is some sort of pin vise with the small drill bits.
Yeah.
And the problem is that finding the small drill bits is not easy. People try to buy them at the hardware store the first time, and they don't get small enough.
Yeah.
From the hardware store. So you need to generally go to a hobby shop and specifically buy a pin vise. Pin vises run you to $10 to $20. You can buy the GW one. I don't really suggest it. The GW ones so far, and the
PP ones aren't that great either.
Yeah, no offense, Privateer Press, but so far the bits have not been very good. They're not sharp enough, and they don't dig.
Yeah, I dug 2 of them right into my thumb when they broke off during a pinning session.
They break. You have to be pretty careful. Pinning, learning how to pin is expect to get a couple of these in your hand.
Yeah.
At one point in your life, you're just you're gonna slip.
It's gonna happen.
And then it's just a patience thing. You want to drill that hole as deep as you can without going through the model. In some cases, if it's a really thin part, I'll go right through the model and make the pin flush.
Yeah.
And then fill that hole back in, or sand that hole down with a file, or file it down, I guess would be the right word.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's pretty much a simple procedure after that. You need your wire cutters, which I totally forgot, so I'm going to have to go search G's desk over there in a second. I'm sure there's a pair of wire cutters.
Oh, yeah. There's electronics everywhere over here.
You'll need some sort of clippers to do your clippering, to cut the wire. But again, try to get that wire as long as possible into both joints, because the reason being, that's what's going to hold your model together, and that's the whole point. If you just sort of half-heartedly put like a millimeter into the model, it's really not going to be any different than just gluing it to the nub. And the problem is once it pops out or breaks, it's a difficult thing to drill the pin back out and start over again. So take your time. James, got any advice for people pinning for the first time? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, as you're drilling through, especially metal models, every once in a while you'll feel like you're not getting anywhere with it, and your drill bit might even get stuck in there. When that happens, back it out as carefully as you can, and then consider lubricating your drill bit.
Fair enough.
It makes a big difference.
If you're finding off the top that the drill bit is not going in, what's happened is the tip of the drill bit has dulled. There's 2 ways that you can fix that. The first way that I've done in the past is, and don't do this right away, try a few different models, but use your modeling file to re-point the drill bit. That you might get a little bit extra life out of that drill bit. But basically, when it stops digging, it's usually because it's dulled itself down and is just not working anymore. Yeah. The other thing is if it starts to stick, as James is describing, back out sooner as opposed to later, and sometimes it helps to reverse the drill a little bit, because that's usually the breaking point. That's usually where you end up breaking your drill bit, and then it's an expensive drill bit to break, to be absolutely honest.
Sure is.
Sometimes the problem is too, like with sometimes you're drilling in deeper than usual, and when that drill bit gets in deep, there's more friction all the way around that. So it might not be that you're too dull. It might also just be that it's too tight. It's the materials around it could be swelling. There could be a little bit of flex. So again, just a little bit of lubrication goes a long way.
I'd like to congratulate us all for 0 sexual innuendos during
all that lubrication.
During all that lubrication and drilling talk. Yeah. We've really grown.
I feel we've matured as a podcast.
I'm also, before I pin...
I just didn't want to step on Jason's toes. I thought that was his job.
Yeah. Before I do the final pinning on this, I want to make sure that I've green stuffed up the cracks that I'm about to cover up. So I'm doing a little bit of that too. A lot of green stuff right now. But moving right along, James, what are you working on over there? And got any tips or tricks while you work?
I'm using pigments tonight. I'm doing a bunch of work with weathering powders, pigments. You can grind down chalk pastels, that kind of thing. But the one thing that's worth springing for if you're going to get into pigment work is a pigment fixer. It's a clear wash that makes the pigments permanent, so they bond beautifully to the surface. It won't screw up the rest of your paint, and it means that your pigments stay where you put them and look the way you want them to.
Jason,
Yo, what's up?
what you got going on over there?
I'm trying to get in that eyeball.
Oh, how do you do your eyeballs, Jason? Are you a 3-stage eyeball guy?
So
or
here's
do you
the thing.
kinda-
I've played Legion and Crix and now Trolls.
Mhm.
I typically don't paint models that have eyeballs.
Mm.
I like the glowing eye look. With Legion, it's all that eyeless sight and no eyeballs. And the stuff that does have eyeballs typically has like a cloak or something over their face.
Right.
So I've avoided it thus far. I have a hard enough time with just getting the one dot in there, so I feel like I'd have a really hard time with eyes at this point.
Hey, well, I'm sure James has lots of advice on how to do eyes. My trick has been I do the painstaking 3 dots.
Right.
So starting and most people's mistake is that they start with the white first. I start with the black.
Yeah.
So create or black or brown. If it's a male eye, I start with brown. If it's a female eye, I start with black.
Mm-hmm.
Just because women's eyes tend to look better with a bit more sort of mascara definition type of thing, or at least we equate that to a woman's eye.
Yeah.
And then, so that's the first dot. Then I do white after that. And again, like any other type of painting, it's taking your time and doing it a little bit at a time. So I find it's better to do it with thinner paints.
Yeah.
And do several dots, because that if you overdo it with a bit of thin paint, it's not going to ruin the whole face.
Right.
At that point, I start. I'll use the flesh tone to cut the eye back in, so that whatever mistakes I made get covered up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third is to do either. You can do 2 things. You can either do your dot of black now, which is the iris, or you can do a dot of color.
Right.
And then if you're really good, you do a dot of color and then a dot of black. And it depends on the size of the eye, of course, too.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like a bust would be a little easier.
Yeah,
for something like
busts. Well, that's the thing though. Bust, the eye has to look real, right?
True, because a bust is bigger scale. You're going to notice it more.
So with a bust, I generally do like 5 or 6 different stages,
Right.
depending on the eye, because I'm also going to get a little bit of reflection on the eye, that kind of stuff. But the only real trick I have for people is take your time, use thinner paints, and black or brown first.
Get ready to start all over again.
Yeah, but you know what? There's nothing wrong with that too,
Nope.
and that's really what's gonna. If you want to learn how to do that kind of level of work, and eyes really separate out the mice from the men a lot
For
of the
sure,
time.
yeah.
I think once you've figured out eyes, that's a huge oh my god moment for a lot of painters.
Yep.
Or at least where they start feeling really competitive. So take your time and don't feel bad about making a mistake, man. We all had goofy eyes to start with. The hardest part about doing eyes is getting them so that they don't look cross-eyed. I'll even have several times I've had to redo a model because I've spent hours doing it, and then I look at it from the front. I'm like, oh crap, these guys are totally cross-eyed. Over to Mr. Craig. Do you have any advice for Jason in eyes?
Yeah, totally different way to approach eyes instead of using the dot method.
Awesome.
I paint the whole eye white first.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure I clean up under the eye with the flesh tone, and then I'll do this on my hand so you can see it here.
Okay.
See? So I do the top of the eye as a line, and then with the pupil attached. You will never get too bright.
Ah.
So you'll never
That's really
get
smart.
that weird staring eye.
Yep.
If it's got the dark line across the top of the lid.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's easy to clean that in or to blend it up if you want to give it like an eyeshadow look for a female eye or something like that.
I like that.
So it's I recommend using a larger brush than you think you should use, because you want a brush that's got enough belly that the paint will flow beautifully the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
So something like this is a number 2, but it's got a beautiful point on it. So I can just take that point, do that line, and that lets me do the dot more easily, because I can then kind of like basically pull it off of the line as a marker.
Yeah.
With that line on top, I can set the tip of my brush back where I want it, and then just pull down ever so slightly or make a dot, and it gives me the marker point that I need to make it happen properly.
I like that.
So yeah, way easier. You'd never get that like crazy staring eye. And yeah, for gaming models, it's totally the way to go.
Cool.
Unless you want to do it the other way, which is cool too. Just kidding.
I don't know if it's cool, but you can do it.
You could do it if you want to. I think. Well, I mean, that's the thing.
I think I just told you the cool guy way.
Yeah, it's probably true. I'm not really that cool. Well, that's the thing. There's this is one of the things that I love about doing casts like this is there's a million ways to do stuff.
Yep.
And the only way you're going to learn how to do stuff is figure out what's comfortable for you. And the only way you're going to figure out what's comfortable for you is if you hear 20 other ways to do something. So try it all. And when you realize that James's is the better way, don't tell anybody on the internet to say that mine was awesome. All right.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right. So, there was some news this week that we need to cover.
Yeah, we should go over that.
So you should. Why don't you focus and well, I find some clippers.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk a bit about the news?
Yeah. So the big thing this week, well, so far anyway, has been the CID update. Crucible Guard got their version 2 of CID all updated and new rules and stuff. So I suggest people go check that out because I'm not going to go over it all here. There's just way too much, and I can't remember it all.
Fake rules.
Yeah. So it's going to change next week anyway, probably. So there's not much point in going over a lot of it. One of the other big changes was the change to immunities again. So last week during the CID, they changed immunities so that instead of not suffering damage at all, you suffer one less die of damage than usual. So they received some feedback on that, and they decided that just isn't working. It hurts single wound infantry, I think, way too much. So what they did was, instead of removing a die of damage, it's just a straight up +4 armor. It's basically carapace against the thing you're immune to, which I really don't think helps single wound infantry a lot. Maybe really high armor single wound infantry. But as far as armor 12 infantry models, they're still going to die. Armor 16, 2 dice, chances are. It takes the odds off a bit, I think, but it doesn't really save you. So it's going to be interesting, I think, to see where that goes. I think there's a lot of people campaigning to get rid of the term immunities as well, because technically you're not immune anymore. It's a resistance. So they might change it to resistances if the community speaks loud enough on that one. I don't know.
Well, but here's the thing, I don't know. Maybe I could argue the other side, but I don't really. I mean, I don't disagree at all. I think maybe you have two. Maybe you have resistances and immunities.
Yeah.
So that certain models are immune, or you use the rule clear to cover some of the models that are immune to certain effects, so that you can continue. So the models like. What is it? The Menoth models. That was their design.
Yeah.
To be like, I can stand in the middle of fire and I'm good.
Yeah.
If you give them clear,
yes,
suddenly they can do that, right?
Yeah.
Or for certain things like sprays and Anyway, we did actually have an errata hit this week, though, didn't we?
Yes. The Legion CID for existing models has been made available. Which is pretty good. There wasn't a whole lot of changes, I don't think, from when the CID was last available. So I'll just kind of quickly go through some of the stuff because there is a fair amount here. So Absalonia 1, who went from Garbage Caster to she looks like a lot of fun. Her feat was changed so that additionally, while in Absalonia's control range, models in her battle group gain rapid healing for 1 round. And she gets to completely heal her beasts, which is pretty damn good.
Dirty.
Yep. So what else happened here? The text of spontaneous mutation changed. So this model can suffer damage at any time during its activation to gain one of the following special rules. For each damage point suffered, this damage cannot be transferred. Each special rule lasts until the start of the model's next activation. And those are, of course, her... it's +1 speed and flight for one of them, +2 strength for the other one, and what was the other one? I can't remember the other one, but check it out. It's available in War Room now, so it's worth having a look at if you're a Legion player or just want to know what you're going to be going up against if you have a good Legion player in your meta. So she has Playing God now. So when she affects herself with one of those rules I was just talking about, the +2 strength or +1 speed and flight and the other one, she can also spend 2 fury to put it on one of her beasts as well. So she can affect herself with all 3 of those rules and then spend 2 fury to put all 3 of those rules on one of her beasts, which is pretty crazy. So you have speed 6 flying Carnivian that's +2 strength and whatever the other rule is. God damn, I can't remember that. She also has Refuge now, so Refuge is back in Legion. So ping-ponging Angeliuses are back. Thegrosh. Thegrosh the Messiah got a little bit of a buff. His speed was increased to 6. His defense was increased to 14, which is pretty good for a tanky caster. And his armor was increased to 18. So basically, you're going to want to take a Carnivian with him just to get it up to 20. And he's a pretty tanky dude. He's got 20 boxes, so not too bad for a caster. His ranged weapon. So you're replacing fire. He still has continuous fire on it, but you're replacing the fire effect with damage type magical, which is super awesome because it's a nice spray 10. And it's pretty nasty because he's pretty much a frontline caster anyway. So you got to watch out for him, especially now he's speed 6.
Take that, Grimkin.
Yeah.
I got this.
So he gained Aggravator as well, which is hyper aggressive for friendly faction war beasts. Hyper aggressive is a little controversial, I think. Some people really like it. Some people think it's a trap. I think it depends on who you're playing and what you're playing.
I've had good luck with hyper aggressive in the past.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just, you have to use it.
You have to, because you can still do a full advance of 0 if you want. Like you don't have to, but you have to go towards the thing that hit you. You have to go directly towards it. So you can't just go in any direction.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good. Archangel, his armor went up to 19, which is, I mean, he's a gargantuan. He probably should have armor 19.
Come on, Gargs like that should just die to a stiff breeze.
Well, he is an Archangel, so that's pretty much what he does. He's still, his ranged weapon, they replaced crit fire with continuous fire, which is pretty good. It's still only a range 10 AoE 3, so it's not super great. The good thing about the Archangel is it does have it can reposition 3 inches away. So even if you're 10 inches, you can back up 3 inches afterward and be 13 inches away, which is typically fairly safe against a lot of things. Any kind of concentrated shooting, he's probably just going to die anyway, though. The Blightbringer.
So you're still not living your 2 Archangel dream?
No, that's not going to happen. His points also stayed at 37. So he's still super expensive. I'm not rushing to take Archangels in any list right now. Blightbringer is reduced point cost to 32. So there was a lot of kind of fighting during the CID about this. The Blightbringer is a great support gargantuan. His offensive output is not that great, but he is a great support gargantuan. So reducing his points from, I believe there were 38 down to 32 is pretty aggressive. But then we got to look at the Vulcan in the CID for the Crucible Guard, and the Vulcan is basically very much a support guard like the Blightbringer, but has a lot more offensive output and is 37 points. So I think they costed him down to be kind of along that same line. They also increased his speed to 5 from 4, increases mat to 6. His command is 6 from 5, which is really good because of the support that it offers. And they changed his animus so that there was quite a few changes to his animus during the CID. At one point, you could just spray wherever the hell you wanted every time you got hit. But now you can spray once. It's a spray 8, POW 10, and you spray against the thing that hit you rather than just anywhere you want to, which is probably fair. Carnivian. The Carney chassis got a lot of adjustments during that CID.
Right, you were pretty excited about that.
I'm still really excited about that because the Carney chassis was kind of my learning point. That's where I started. The first thing I ever painted was a Carnivian. So he went from 19 points down to 18, which I think is a good spot for the Carnivian. They increased his rat to 5, thank God, because rat 4 on that spray was just sad. Added continuous effect fire to his spray as well. So they say Carnivian was not performing at a level that justified its point cost, and I'd have to agree with them. 19 is super expensive, and they bumped up some of the other stuff to make 18 even better. The Ravagore went from 19 points to 16. Ravagore didn't lose anything card-wise or rules-wise. He just went down to 16 points, which is amazing for a Ravagore. But when you look at, I think when you look at the Ravagore next to, say, a Bomber, who is also 19 points and has 2, it has reload. So Ravagore has 1 shot that's 4-inch AoE Scather. The Bomber can have 2 that are 4-inch AoEs. So I think the Ravagore needed to be 16 points. 16 points seems maybe a little low, but he's really good. So I think people will be adding Ravagores to their list fairly frequently now. The Scythian also went down to 16 points, which is pretty good. Puts him in a more competitive spot than the Carnivian, because I think he was 18 before. And people were just, why would you take a Scythian when you can take a Carnivian instead? But he's 16 points now, so that's a nice spot for him. Stealth adjustment was on Typhon, who was not in the CID at all, but they reduced his point cost down to 20 from 24, which is a huge drop just out of the blue, and super awesome because Typhon is fantastic. He's one of my favorite beasts for sure. So having him at 20 points definitely makes him worth taking. They slightly changed some of the wording on his animus. None of the actual rule itself didn't change though, so he still heals every time you hit him. The Warmongers, they got their point cost reduced to 8 for min unit and 13 for a full unit, which is pretty cheap, especially with the new stuff that's coming out for Legion. Warmongers, I think, get to be pretty decent models. They're definitely worth throwing out there just for jamming stuff up now. They also have Unyielding, which is fantastic.
Yeah, Unyielding is great.
Yep. So I think we'll be seeing Warmongers a little bit more often once the new stuff comes out. The Hellmouth got a change, which also wasn't in CID. But
people did want some Hellmouth
Oh
change.
God, yes. There was a lot of screaming for Hellmouth changes.
Yeah.
So what they did was if one of the tentacles from the Maw, not the Maw itself, but if one of the tentacles is moved or placed outside of the Maw's command range, which is 8, then that tentacle just gets removed from play.
Which stops you from just throwing it downtown.
Which stops you from throwing it downtown, either to arc spells through with Veil 2, which was, I think, probably the biggest problem with that, because people could just run it 10 inches up the field from where it started, which was probably at 22 inches anyway, and just start picking things off turn 1. So that's really good. It doesn't stop you from bringing tentacles back the next turn, because the tentacles that come back are not old tentacles, they're new. So RFP does not stop you bringing new tentacles back, but it just stops you from being janky with them, I guess. I think that's a fair rule. The Hellmouth is super survivable anyway, So having to keep the tentacles in command range is fair. I was never one to run them out of command anyway, because I liked to use them for free strikes and stuff like that.
The side note to that rule is that now means that if I teleport your tentacle,
yes,
or push your tentacle,
yep,
or
it
throw
goes away,
or whatever,
yep,
if it's been moved,
yep,
it now disappears. So that can be a way you deal with tentacles as well.
With tentacles themselves, I never found were that hard to get rid of. It's the maw that's the problem.
The maw is the hugest problem.
Tentacles are only arm 15.
But if you've got other ways to get rid of tentacles, it can be good.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of having other ways to be like, oh, crap, I didn't quite kill that third tentacle to clear that zone. Oh, I've got this teleport, or I can move it, or whatever. Bulldoze it.
I mean, tentacles, they're single point. It's just a matter of breaking arm 15, really, because they're defense 10 or 11. Like, they're super easy to get rid of. I think it just makes it so that people can't just run them all the way up the field to jam and stuff. Because they are a medium base, and they are harder to remove, or harder to get around, rather.
Yep.
The Warmonger War Chief had his point cost reduced to 5, which is nice. Because as much support as he offers, I think, what was it, 6 or 7? It was a little too much. So he got unyielding as well. He also got powerful charge, which is nice. So that's pretty much all the Legion changes. The theme forces got a little bit of a change. So the Trollblood theme force, the Creel Company, you can now officially take the Hooch Hauler.
Cool.
Which is nice, because I think you can only it was only available in Storm of the North before, and having a $165 battle engine only available in one theme is kind of a bummer. Hopefully they'll change it so you can take the War Wagon in Storm of the North too, but that's probably not likely. Primal Terrors, the Legion theme force got changed a little bit. So for every full 20 points of Bladed Ogryn and Rotwing models units, you can add 1 Helmoth unit, 1 Bladed Ogryn command attachment, or 1 medium base Bladed Ogryn solo. So it's not just free solo or whatever. They're very specific about what you can take there.
That might be an indication of things to come too.
That's quite possible.
Because I think that might be one of the things that, like, take a free solo, and so everybody just takes the 2 8-point ones. Hopefully, maybe we'll see a bit more of that as time goes on.
Yeah.
Just to kind of even out the jank.
Yeah. So Bladed Ogryn Warmonger and Bladed Ogryn Warspear units in this army gain Vengeance in theme, which is super awesome for Warmongers because they're slow and kind of easily get picked off. So adding Vengeance to them makes people think a little bit more, I think, before just randomly shooting one, because that 3-inch move kind of makes a difference on a speed 5 model with an 8-inch throw on it. And that's pretty much all the changes that came out of the Insider the other day.
Sweet. That's quite a bit.
Yeah.
So speaking of Legion, I saw the new Legion Heavy Cavalry Dragon Ogryn guys.
Yep, the Chosen.
I think those were a super good idea.
Yeah.
When I started playing the game that shall not be named, some workshop somewhere, Dragon Ogres were like one of the things that made me go, oh, I want to play this. And then Dragon Ogres generally sucked in their game. So seeing these in this made me feel that way again. I was like, ooh.
Yeah. Really cool sculpts. I'm pretty sure Doug Hamilton did those. I mean, they look a lot like Callus too. Who Doug did, so I'm pretty sure Doug had a hand in those, and Doug's work's always fantastic, I think. The rules, if they stay the same as they were during the last week of the CID, are pretty awesome. I think you'll definitely be seeing them in a lot of Legion lists because they are one of the more survivable units in Legion at this point. They were at that point anyway.
That's a lot of changes. How you feeling? How you feeling about Legion overall, though, Jason? With these changes, is Legion back? Are we back in the age of me just dealing with?
I mean, cheaper models is always good. I think Legion still has a lot of problems into certain matchups, and maybe even certain factions. Like, I feel like Legion just wants to infinitely dodge Signar. Anything with concentrated shooting is bad for Legion because they just don't have a way to shut that down. There's no cloud walls. There's no feats that say you cannot make ranged attacks. A lot of the stuff is very medium defense. The lighter war beasts are defense 14, which is nice, and the Angelius I think is a 13, which is nice. But there's so much mat and rat fixing in the game right now that it doesn't mean a whole lot. But I think they're getting there. They're definitely, with the new stuff coming out, they're definitely better off than they were. I think, which is kind of the main point of CID, and probably new models as well.
We had a couple questions from local guy Brian Latour.
Yep.
That came up on our Facebook show today. One of them,
Brian paints Kador. I got the right guy.
Yeah, he plays Kador. He's a very good painter. He's I would say he's up and coming competitor. A lot of the local painting challenges. I look forward to seeing his work.
I like his army.
Yeah, he does a pink and purple scheme that's a lot of fun, and he's taking a lot of, one of the things that I love seeing in painters, or at least that next level of painter, is when they start taking risks, and trying new things with their models. And one of the things that Brian's been doing a lot lately is trying new things. Like decals and doing some weathering and that kind of stuff. Really coming along really fantastically. So I look forward to seeing some of his competitive models. I look forward to seeing everybody's competitive models, but I look forward to seeing his in particular in the upcoming like at SOO, because I'm sure he'll bring some.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he'll be at the suit for sure. He'll be probably hanging out with you in the hobby room quite a bit.
Yeah.
So one of the things that he was asking was, with the changes, the rapid fire changes that have been happening. Let me see if I you know what?
Do you want me to scroll up? Was it on the chat, or
it was in the Facebook page. Let me just look this up real quick, just so I can get his wording right. It was, with core rules now going into CID, like unyielding and immunities and the resulting butterfly effects apparent, the change to unyielding causing Gatsby 3 Slayer spam. Do you think that the game is starting to change too much too fast?
No. That's my immediate thought is no. I mean, there's more to keep up with, I think, but I don't think it's too fast. I think what they're doing is adjusting things that they feel, and probably a lot of other people feel, needed to be adjusted. And how long has CID been going now? Has it been a year?
I don't think so. Maybe. Not quite.
I don't think it's been quite
May?
a year,
Did
right?
it start in May?
Because was Grimkin the first thing in CID? No.
You know what? To be honest, off the top of my head,
it's getting close to a year anyway.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're seeing just, I don't know. PP has been so much more active as a company with their players, and I think they're doing a lot of adjustments and listening to their players. And we've had Pagani on here before saying everything they do is basically 3 years from where they started thinking about it. And not a lot of these changes probably are that way. The immunities change, I feel like, probably has been in their heads for a while now, especially with Company of Iron kind of having the same rule. So I don't think it's too much.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Both James and I can speak to this because, I mean, you can too, because you've been around since midway through Mark II. I've got a couple more years on you. James, you've got a little bit more years in several systems as well, to speak of. But I do not miss the dark days of Mark II where we had to wait for the yearly, like the bi-yearly errata to hit
every 6 months.
Coming.
Yeah. Like you'd be like, oh, like the Nemo 3 issue right now, for example.
Right.
Or whatever. Nemo 3 is just a boogeyman. It's beatable. I've beat it several times. You can work your way around it. But let's say a giant broken problem. Something that came up really. Una 2.
Right.
Una 2 is a classic example.
Yeah.
And that did get errated quickly.
Yeah.
But it used to be a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
before Mark III, that Una 2 would come up and we just have to deal with it
For 6 months. Yeah.
Sometimes they would come in and fix something that was just meta and game breaking because they'd be like, "Oh, we made a mistake," but that was really, 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 really rare. A lot of the times it was just sort of like, "Well, let's hope that they deal with it in the February errata," and then the guys that bought in on whatever the jank list was get all mad when the errata. "Oh, I'm out of this game. I'll never play it again." I don't miss those. At least I know what's coming now, and I can be like. And
that's the thing. If you're paying attention, you probably have a good idea or at least an inkling of what is coming down the pipe as far as changes, because you're going to see in most metas that some things are just egregious as far as rules or models go. And if you buy into those rules, the Mad Dog spam comes to mind. You're probably going to be cursing later on down the road because they're not going to just let that slide.
Yeah, broken things don't last forever anymore, or at least not nearly as long as they used to.
Here's my take on it. Most of the gaming systems that I played back in the day, there were no erratas.
Yeah.
Or, like, very little, if any. And so the thing was that people wanted in this particular community, and a lot of it's because it was founded on the principle that this is a more competitive and competition-based system.
Yeah.
Right? They wanted clean competition rules. They wanted, and so people wanted updates. They wanted balance. And if that was the goal, then Privateer Press was, one of the first companies to really step up and say, look, we will work to address this balance issue.
Yeah.
And, people liked that there were updates because they were tired of getting punched in the face with totally broken things over and over again.
Yeah.
And as much as it's, a 3-year process, there's a lot of things that, as much as the huge community out there says, oh, I could have seen this coming a mile away. There's so many things that you couldn't see coming a mile away.
Yeah.
And, there's so many things that you couldn't really get a feel for how broken someone could make it because it's somebody's like sudden realization that is out of the norm of the expectation, right? So in stepping up to make changes, people supported the idea of changes and they wanted more input on the changes. So now Privateer Press is giving them exactly what they asked for.
Yeah.
New edition, constant updates where the general community gets to brainstorm on these updates. You're not always going to like the answer, and you're not always going to like the final version of the update.
Well, you can't please everybody either.
You can't say that you weren't asked. You can't say you didn't have an opportunity.
Yeah.
And the company is doing, the best they can. You can't please all the people all the time.
Yeah.
Well, they also brought in more, like the people that are building the game are now people that competitively play it as well. I mean, you've got guys like Pagani that are lead helping with that lead. That's a sign that the company is trying its hardest to, yes, make sure that the game is competitive, but at the same time, a balanced rule set.
Yeah.
James is smiling at me like, did I interrupt you? I'm sorry.
No, you're right on the money.
Well, I'm pinned, boys.
Nice. It's time for a shot.
Time for a shot. Here's a happy St. Pat's to all you Mises out there and to the one and only James Craig.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We didn't even get to open up our Crooked Mile yet.
No, we didn't.
I haven't even finished my beer. Have you?
Yeah, mine's pretty much done.
Oh, crap.
I'm super looking forward to the Sioux, guys.
Yeah, we've got a lot of crazy cool things happening at the Sioux this year. We will be doing the State of the Game podcast no matter what. So we will bring the stuff to do that. And I believe that our buddies Rich from our buddies, including Rich from Beer Machine.
Our buddy's Rich.
Rich will most likely have his podcasting gear to help out. Make sure that happens. I'll bring some extra mics and that kind of stuff. So that'll happen again. I know that a lot of people loved that last year.
We even have a couple other podcasters coming this year, which is going to be fantastic.
Yep,
it's
going to be
growing and growing. Not Snakes is going to be there in full this year.
Mm-hmm. They're like your besties now, aren't they?
Yeah.
You hang out with them on weekends.
Yeah, I talk to Peter a lot.
They invited you to be on their podcast yet?
No.
They're probably just going to steal you. Aren't you like a professional podcaster now?
No. Oh, we were talking about if Fraser doesn't get True Blood Scrum up and running soon, of just starting our own, because we're tired of the silence, Fraser.
Yeah, Fraser.
Come on, Fraser.
Dun, dun, dun.
Get it back, get it going.
Yeah.
So, but that's.
James, there was a second question from Brian directed at you.
Ooh.
How do you decide where and when to use non-metallic metals versus true metallic metals? You and I have had this conversation many times.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I almost always use true metallic metals because I like them better.
Yeah.
There isn't a right answer to this question. Non-metallic metals, if you can do them well, and they add some kind of flashy aspect to your model, or they, give you a chance to really show off some great brushwork or something, then by all means, go for it. This last couple of weeks, I saw the pictures of what might be the best non-metallic metals I've ever seen. I just don't understand how it's done. It really hurt my brain. Kirill just did a bust. I mean, it's Kirill, but the helm, it's got a reflection in the back of the helmet.
Wow.
Like it's nonsense.
Wow.
But my Beastman army that I did all my competition pieces with back in like the 90s, or I guess that was the early 2000s. It was all non-metallic metal because people told me I couldn't paint non-metallic metal, so I did.
Fuck you, yes I can.
Yes, I can. Now I'm doing a whole army, so I'm yours. And I like that, and it looked good, and I could certainly do that again. It's just, I don't know. It's a style choice. It's not a right or wrong. Back in the 90s in competition, it was a big deal because it was something new. It was technical. Most people didn't understand how to do it at all.
Right.
And so, it was a thing that won a lot of awards because it was pushing the medium forward. It really was. But now there's so much information out there. There's so many people that do it well. That for the last number of years, I don't think that it is something that was considered to be above true metallic metals.
Yeah.
Anymore, they were just two different ways to approach things, and people push their metallic metals past just a dry brush of metal. So, as that kind of moved forward, then they just became two different techniques, not better or worse, not a must do this, must do that. People who really want to control lighting are more apt to do non-metallic metals because it forces you to control the lighting all the time. But unless you're getting really down to absolute granularity in your concept of lighting, then there's, it's just a choice you pick. Yeah.
One of the things I will suggest to painters that are at that mid to, like, if you want to make the leap, and I'm not a top level, I'm not a gold medal winning painter. I win local competitions sometimes, and sometimes but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not one of the greats like Chris Sewer or James or any of those guys. But one of the things I will suggest to anybody that's in that middle to high level and you want to make that leap, try doing non-metallic metals, because it actually will push your true metallic metals to a different direction. Mm-hmm. It'll teach you how to shade if you take the principles that you've learned doing your true metallic metals, which you have to, there's a lot of research you have to do. You have to look at photos of how light reflects off of a sword or whatever else. And you take that and transport it to the same principles apply.
Yeah.
Black on metal, even in a true metallic metal, you still may want to force the blacks in the metal to create the shadows and the glints, etc., that you want to achieve, or use metal medium on those points where you want that little bit of shine.
Yeah.
All those things translate. So it's not wrong to learn how to do, even if you've got a bunch of people that are like, non-metallic. I know a few people who will remain nameless that are like, non-metallic metals, that's just cheese for the blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's just another skill. It's just another skill. Yeah. Learn it. It can be cool. And some people get it. Some people, like, it clicks with them and that becomes their style.
Yeah.
Learn it. Try it. Because it's really cool. I loved the first couple of models I did with non-metallic metals. I really like using non-metallic metals on small things like tiny little daggers and stuff, because suddenly that dagger now shows up, whereas it may not have shown up with it. So so sometimes I don't mix them. Like if all the like, let's say that my Witch Doctor Croc, the limited edition, she's just got this one tiny little dagger.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's the only piece of metal in the whole thing, and I want it to really gleam. So I did non-metallic metals on that. And it was a tiny little thing, but it helps that stand out and helps point the light. And anyway, enough of that diatribe, but just don't dismiss it either way. And I think that's the biggest problem we have, and we're still facing this community. It's hilarious in the painting community that we still deal with this, that there are people that tell you that there's a right and a wrong way to do shit.
Yeah.
No, just try it, man. Just try it. I mean, except for when James tells us that you shouldn't do those eyes that way. He's right. I'm just kidding, because he's wrong.
Fraser just spoke up and said there was an episode of Troll Blood Scrum last week, but Fraser didn't tell me about it, so it didn't happen.
Well, maybe there'll be one this week. Maybe we can convince him.
Fraser, you got one coming this week.
He should just start right now. He's just like, damn it, now I have to record those damn Moose Machine guys made me.
I'll be right back.
Yep. So let's talk a bit about some of the cool things we got going on the SOO while we clean up our little area, because I'm done painting.
I painted one color on several rocks.
Sweet.
So I'm good for the night.
You're feeling good. You should just black the base, man. Just black the base.
I don't have time.
Black the base. Black the base.
It's hard when you have a bottle in your hand.
Yeah, it's true. So some of the things we got going on the SOO. James, you're doing some painting courses, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to be. I haven't really. Still working out the details.
Cool.
I'm taking a painting course with Sergio Calvo Rubio.
Ooh.
We're flying him over from Spain. He's doing a tour, North American tour, starting in Toronto and then heading to, I think it might be Montreal after that. So I'm going to the Toronto one, and I'm super excited.
And a space opened up, and I'm traveling. God damn it. So close.
You and your traveling.
Hey,
screwing up everything.
Somebody give me a job where I make a decent amount of money a year and don't have to travel anymore, and I will take it.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be pretty amazing. I'm really, really excited for this one.
Sweet.
And then I'm looking to teach a couple of courses this year. Still just kind of working out the detail on those, but I think I'm going to do one that'll be focused on bust painting.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been talking with Chris from Broken Toad, and I think we'll use the Guild Ball Broken Toad busts.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. And
they're kind of cool. They're a little different. Lots of really neat areas. One of them's got an otter. The other one's Rage, so he's got a big cleaver and a mustache.
One of it, and we really want our airbrush course. We want the James Craig airbrush.
I have one now, so...
That is the other one that I am planning on teaching.
Cool.
Awesome. So events that you and I... There's apparently going to be a podcast tournament. Podcaster versus
podcaster tournament at the Sioux.
We got to talk to Tim Banky because, to be honest, we've been so out of the loop the last few weeks with all the other things going on that we haven't talked to him about what we're doing this year. I don't know if even he knows that we're paring back a little bit because of George's illness.
No.
Well, that's okay.
Yep.
This stuff is usually done last minute. The good people at Out of the Box are going to be funding us to make sure that we go to the SOO this year, which is pretty sweet.
Yep.
Count
That's
me in
super
if you need
sweet.
me, by the way.
What's that?
Yep.
Count me in on whatever if you need me.
You got it, man.
You are commentating the whole weekend, sir.
Well, we play games. It's going to be awesome. Some of the other things that are going on at the Sioux that we're kind of stoked about is there's like a secret beer exchange going on.
Whoa, that's secret, though. You can't talk about that.
Super secret. Fraser's online. Is like,
yeah.
I'm going to be bringing a ton of Crooked Mile with me for people to try out. So
yeah, that's fair. I got to figure out something to take with me. I don't know what.
What were some of the other things? Oh,
that's just Crooked Mile beer.
Yeah,
just bring more Crooked Mile.
More Crooked Mile.
Yeah, just bring
different flavor.
Two fours. We could just bring a whole bunch of. Some of the other things that we want to talk about quickly. Oh, big news out of Muse on Minis this week.
Oh, huge news out of Muse on Minis this week.
Huge news. John has stepped aside.
Yeah.
He's sold his shares to
Jay Larson.
Jay Larson.
Yeah. Chain Attack Jay.
So Chain Attack
Chain Attack J.
Chain Attack has just taken over the universe.
Taking over the world.
Taking over the world. Props to those guys for.
Weird thing is, I already blogged for them at Discount Games.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
So Discount Games will now also be part of Muse on Minis.
It's all like
under the same
they're
umbrella.
they're like the Nestle Corporation, just taking it over.
And then they'll just buy Privateer Press, and then
or maybe Disney.
Yeah, Disney will buy them.
Yeah.
And then we'll all eat Kit Kats together.
Woohoo!
While singing Frozen. Well, it'll be Frozen models. It'll just be
singing Frozen, like the theme song.
Yeah,
from Frozen.
it'll be
Let It Go.
Yeah, if you sing "Let It Go" on turn 3, you win the game. That'll be how it goes.
That's assuming I make it to turn 3.
Yeah, that's the good news. Is most of the time we won't make it to turn 3. Well, we're running down on our time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for hanging out with. Oh, James, you got something to say?
Sorry. One more. I just want to throw this out there. Adepticon is coming up in about a week.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to be back there judging Crystal Brush again. But more importantly than the Crystal Brush, the biggest person miniature painting, but something even bigger than that. I'm laying the smackdown. Dallas Kemp is going down. Company of Iron World Heavyweight Championships.
That's right.
I've been looking forward to that for like week.
I know. You know what? I'm torn.
Our friends at Advanced Maneuvers are going to broadcast it for us.
Nice.
I'm torn, man. Because James and Dallas, those are my boys, man. I don't want to see this. This is like your two best friends having a fist fight over a girl.
When Dallas sees what I've got in store for him, it's all over.
He's just gonna walk away, go for an ice cream.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
No, I just pictured James like dragging an air compressor out there and just like spraying paint, and then Dallas pulling out a chainsaw and being like, "It's on."
True Metallic, hop in here.
Here we go. It's chainsaw time. We don't really have that much else to talk about other than everybody. Let's see you at the Sioux. Get your tickets as soon as possible because it doesn't sell out, but it sure does. Well, it does actually.
It will, eventually.
It does, like usually the last minute, the last few tickets.
Don't just wait till you get to the door because you might find yourself driving back home.
Yeah, we'll have a little bit of swag this year, but not as much as we usually do. We've still got some tokens left. If you don't have your Moose Machine token, bring a couple of bucks for some cool stuff. I know that Black Knight will be there. I'm guessing Muse will be there. I don't know how the state of things are.
No, Muse will not be there. Ooh, that hurts.
Oh, dang.
I asked Jay.
That hurts.
That hurts. Now, how am I going to get my tokens?
From Black Knight.
They'll
be carrying Muse on.
There you go. Perfect. Last but not least, I want you to go to your local gaming store and spend some money there. I know that there's a lot of great places to buy online, but don't forget about your local gaming store. Our local gaming store is out of the box. They carry everything. If you do not have a local gaming store, you can go to Out of the Box online. They carry all of their stuff there.
And free shipping for models over like over $25 or something
like that. American MSRP.
Yeah, US MSRP.
Yeah, all that good stuff. So check them out. And last but not least, I want to thank the Muse on Minis Network. And Jay, you are the best. You know, I like that other guy that used to run the company, but you're where it's at, man.
We happily welcome our new owner.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you for not putting us in the trash. All right, that's it for us tonight. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the second inaugural. We want to call it Paint Bitch, but it's actually called what's it called?
The Moose Machine Magical Mini Painting Hour, maybe? I don't know. I can't remember.
We'll come up with
figure it out. Priming up the paint better.
I like priming up the paint better, too. I think we might have to steal one of Connor's idea and give him royalties or something.
Yeah, probably. Or we just let
My paint water is 60 proof is also really good.
That's pretty good. That could just be your nickname.
That could just be my nickname.
I think it would be hilarious if we each had like the coffee mug with our paint water and we drink from it throughout the course of the show.
No metallics.
All right, good night, everybody. That's it from us. Good night, James.
Night, James.
Good night, guys.
Bye-bye.
Dice down. Moose Machine and This Death Clock Has 60 Minutes is a proud part of the Muse on Minis network. Podcasts go online every Thursday morning. You can watch the show live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on Twitch and keep in touch with us on our Facebook page. Just Google Moose Machine. If you can't find us, you're doing the internet wrong. You're gonna chug right from that bottle, aren't
I'm
you?
having another shot.
Oh, because you got to go home.
Yep.
You gotta go. Marbles.
No,
Marbles is right.
on the stream.
Just kidding.
I'm just getting ready.
Just getting primed up for home time. Getting primed up for you, baby. That's right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna have
I'm
two
gonna
more.
be wide awake.